In the quiet night of the cloud recesses, the moonlight bathed the pristine halls and towering peaks in a soft, silver glow. The air was still, save for the occasional rustling of leaves and the distant song of the wind weaving through the mountains. Lan Wangji, dressed immaculately in his white robes, stood on the high pavilion overlooking the serene landscape. His guqin rested on the stone table before him, untouched for hours. The melodies that usually flowed effortlessly from his fingertips were silent, as his mind was occupied by thoughts of a single person, Wei Wuxian. Years had passed since the tumultuous days of their youth, filled with battles against dark forces, political strife, and the sharp pangs of misunderstanding. Wei Wuxian, once the notorious Yiling patriarch, had returned to the world of the living, not as the feared cultivator of demonic arts but as a man whose heart was full of kindness, humor, and a mischievous joy that lit up the world around him. Lan Wangji's love for him had been silent, deep, and unwavering, hidden beneath layers of duty and responsibility. But now, with Wei Wuxian standing by his side, free from the burdens of his past, the quiet yearning that Lan Wangji had kept locked away had begun to stir. Suddenly, a soft laugh echoed behind him, shattering the tranquil silence. Lan Zhan, the familiar voice teased, "Are you really going to spend the whole night standing there like a statue?" Lan Wangji turned slowly, and there stood Wei Wuxian, in all his carefree glory, his dark robes fluttering slightly in the breeze. His smile was playful, eyes sparkling with the same mischievousness that had always drawn Lan Wangji in, but there was a tenderness beneath it, an unspoken understanding between them. "Weiing," Lan Wangji said softly, his voice carrying the weight of all the unspoken words that lingered between them. Wei Wuxian stepped closer, his steps light and unhurried. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, tilting his head as if trying to peer into the depths of Lan Wangji's mind. "You've been staring out into the distance for so long. Are you composing another song?" Lan Wangji lowered his gaze. "I was thinking of you." Wei Wuxian's playful expression softened, and he stopped a few paces away from Lan Wangji, his smile turning into something more gentle. "Thinking about me, huh? What have I done this time?" "You have done nothing," Lan Wangji replied, his eyes meeting Wei Wuxian's, the intensity of his gaze making Wei Wuxian's heart skip a beat. "But your presence fills every corner of my mind." For a moment, Wei Wuxian was speechless. Lan Wangji's words, though spoken with his usual calm, carried an emotion so raw, so full of unspoken love, that it left him momentarily breathless. Despite his usual confidence, Wei Wuxian found himself flustered under the weight of Lan Wangji's stare. A faint blush crept onto Wei Wuxian's cheeks, but he quickly covered it with a laugh. "Lan Zhan, are you trying to make me blush?" He reached out, placing a hand lightly on Lan Wangji's arm. "You've been doing that more often lately." Lan Wangji's lips twitched upward in the faintest hint of a smile. "It is not my intention, but if it pleases you," Wei Wuxian's heart fluttered. For so long, they had danced around their feelings, never truly putting them into words. But here, under the soft glow of the moon, surrounded by the quiet peace of the cloud recesses, the distance between them seemed to melt away. "I don't need flowery words from you, Lan Zhan," Wei Wuxian said, his voice quieter now, more serious. "Just being here, with you, is enough for me." Lan Wangji reached out, his fingers brushing against Wei Wuxian's. The touch was so light, yet it sent a spark through both of them, an unspoken promise of something more. "Stay with me," Lan Wangji murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. Wei Wuxian blinked, surprised by the vulnerability in Lan Wangji's tone. He had always known that Lan Wangji cared for him deeply, but hearing those words made his heart swell with emotion. For all the hardships they had endured, all the pain and loss, they had finally found a place where they could simply be together. "Of course," Wei Wuxian said softly, stepping closer until their fingers intertwined. "I'm not going anywhere, Lan Zhan." Not anymore. They stood in silence for a moment, the world around them fading into the background as they focused solely on each other. Wei Wuxian could feel the warmth of Lan Wangji's hand in his, the steady rise and fall of his breath. It was a quiet, intimate moment, one that they had both longed for, but had never dared to dream could be theirs. Finally, Wei Wuxian broke the silence with a chuckle. You know, if someone had told me years ago that I'd be standing here holding hands with the great Han Guangjun, I would have laughed in their face. Lan Wangji raised an eyebrow. Why? Because back then, you were so cold and distant, Wei Wuxian teased. I thought you hated me. I never hated you, Lan Wangji said firmly, his voice steady and sure. I only admired you. Wei Wuxian's eyes widened, and for once, he found himself at a loss for words. He had always known that there was more to Lan Wangji's silence than he let on, but hearing the truth laid bare like this took him by surprise. Lan Wangji continued, his voice gentle but unwavering. You were free, Wei Ying. You lived without the restraints that bound me. I envied that. Wei Wuxian shook his head, a soft smile tugging at his lips. And yet, here we are. The righteous Lan Wangji and the troublemaker Wei Wuxian, standing side by side. We were always meant to be, Lan Wangji replied quietly, his gaze never leaving Wei Wuxian's. Wei Wuxian felt his heart skip a beat at the sincerity in Lan Wangji's words. There was no doubt in his mind that they had been brought together by fate, through all the trials and tribulations they had faced. In that moment, standing together beneath the stars, Wei Wuxian knew that they had finally found their peace. They had been through so much, had lost so much, but they had also found each other. And that, more than anything, was enough. Wei Ying, Lan Wangji said softly, his voice like a gentle breeze, let me play for you. Wei Wuxian's eyes sparkled with amusement. Oh? You're going to play me a love song, Lan Zhan? Lan Wangji didn't respond, but the faintest hint of a smile curved his lips as he turned toward the guqin and sat gracefully. He placed his hands on the strings, and after a brief pause, he began to play. The notes flowed from his fingers, soft and melodic, filling the air with a gentle, haunting tune that seemed to echo through the mountains. Wei Wuxian stood still, mesmerized by the music. It was as if the song carried all the unspoken emotions between them, the years of separation, the pain of loss, and the joy of reunion. Every note was a testament to their journey, to the bond that had always existed between them, even when they hadn't realized it. As the last note faded into the night, Wei Wuxian felt tears prick at the corners of his eyes. He had never been one for sentimentality, but Lan Wangji's music had a way of stirring something deep within him. Lan Wangji looked up at him, his golden eyes soft and full of warmth. Did you like it? Wei Wuxian wiped at his eyes with a grin. Like it? Lan Zhan, that was beautiful. Lan Wangji stood and walked back to Wei Wuxian, his movements slow and deliberate. When he reached him, he gently cupped Wei Wuxian's cheek, his thumb brushing away a stray tear. Wei Ying, he murmured, his voice filled with emotion. You are my melody. My heart. And for the first time in what felt like forever, Wei Wuxian felt truly at home. I love you too, Lan Zhan, he whispered, his voice full of affection and promise. In the stillness of the night, with the moon as their witness, they stood together, bound by love that transcended time, space, and all the hardships they had endured. The eternal melody of their hearts played on, a song that would never fade, and in that moment, Wei Wuxian knew that they would never be apart again.